Thursday mornings had always been my favorite. There was something peaceful about the way the light filtered through our bedroom curtains, casting soft shadows across the hardwood floors we'd saved for 2 years to install. Marcus would usually be rushing around, looking for his keys or his coffee mug, while I enjoyed those quiet moments before the day truly began. But this Thursday felt different. Marcus was still in bed at 8:30 a.m., which was unusual for someone who prided himself on being at the office by 7:45. He was propped up against the pillows, his phone held close to his chest, typing with the kind of focused intensity I hadn't seen him direct toward anything in months, including me. "Running late today?" I asked, toweling my hair dry as I emerged from the bathroom. "Just handling some work stuff," he mumbled, not looking up from his screen. His fingers moved across the keyboard with practiced ease, and I noticed the slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. It was the same smile he used to give me when we were dating, when he'd text me sweet messages throughout the day. I felt a familiar pang of longing. When was the last time he'd smiled at his phone because of something I'd sent him? When was the last time he'd smiled at me like that at all? "Coffee's ready downstairs," I said, but he was already absorbed in whatever conversation was captivating him so completely. I should have paid more attention to the warning signs. The way he'd started sleeping with his phone under his pillow, the way he'd begun taking calls in the garage, claiming it was about work projects that somehow always seemed to require privacy, the way he'd stopped leaving his phone casually around the house, instead keeping it constantly within arm's reach. But I was busy with my own life, the promotion I'd been working toward, the dinner party we were planning for next weekend, the small daily tasks that make up a marriage. I trusted him. After 8 years together, trust felt as natural as breathing. I should have known that sometimes trust can suffocate you. It was pure coincidence that Marcus left his phone on the kitchen counter when he rushed out to move his car for the street cleaning. He'd been in the middle of making coffee when he heard the rumble of the cleaning truck and bolted outside, cursing under his breath about the parking ticket he'd gotten last week. I was wiping down the counter when his phone buzzed. The screen lit up with a text notification, and I glanced at it instinctively, the way you might glance at a clock or check the weather. What I saw made my blood run cold. "Good morning, my love. Can't wait to see you tonight. Last night was incredible. I love you too. XOXO, Emma." The words seemed to blur together, rearranging themselves into something that couldn't possibly be real. I read the message again, then again, hoping I'd misunderstood. But there it was, clear as day, a love declaration from someone who wasn't me, referring to a night that Marcus had spent claiming to be working late at the office. My hands were shaking as I picked up the phone. The message was from Emma Marketing, a contact I didn't recognize. I scrolled up through their conversation, my heart sinking with each exchange. Weeks of messages. Months, maybe. Sweet good mornings and tender good nights. Plans for secret meetings. Intimate conversations about their feelings, their desires, their future together. And then I saw it. A message from Marcus from the night before, sent at 11:47 p.m. "I love you too, Emma. You make me feel alive again." Sent from our bedroom, while I was sleeping 2 feet away. I heard the front door open and Marcus's footsteps in the hallway. Quickly, I set the phone back down exactly where he'd left it, my mind racing. How long had this been going on? How many nights had he lain beside me, texting another woman while I slept? How many times had he kissed me goodbye in the morning after spending the evening telling someone else he loved her? "Crisis averted," Marcus said, walking back into the kitchen with a relieved smile. "Almost got another ticket." He picked up his phone, and I watched his face carefully for any reaction. But he simply slipped it into his pocket, as if nothing had happened. "Marcus," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, "we need to talk." "About what?" Marcus asked, but I could see the wariness creeping into his eyes. He knew. Somewhere in the back of his mind, he had to know that living a double life would eventually catch up with him. About Emma from marketing. The color drained from his face so quickly, I thought he might faint. He gripped the edge of the counter, his knuckles white against the granite we'd picked out together during happier times. "I can explain," he said, but his voice was barely a whisper. "Can you? Can you explain how you've been telling another woman you love her while lying in bed next to your wife? Can you explain how you've been sneaking around for months, building a relationship with someone else while pretending everything was normal at home? It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think." I pulled out my own phone and showed him the screenshot I'd taken. "I love you too, Emma. You make me feel alive again." Sent from our bedroom at 11:47 p.m. I was sleeping right next to you. Marcus slumped against the counter, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. But then I remembered all the nights he'd come home late, all the times he'd been distant during dinner, all the moments when I'd felt like I was living with a stranger. "How long?" I asked. 4 months, he said quietly. "It started at the company retreat. We were both drunk and it just happened. I never meant for it to go this far." "But it did go this far. 4 months, Marcus. 4 months of lying to me every single day. 4 months of me wondering why you seemed so distant, why you stopped touching me, why you stopped talking to me about your day. I wanted to tell you." "When? When exactly were you planning to tell me? Before or after you left me for her?" The question hung between us like a loaded gun. Marcus opened his mouth, then closed it again. We both knew the answer. "You were never going to tell me," I said, and it wasn't a question. "You were going to keep living this lie until—" "What? Until you worked up the courage to leave me? Until she gave you an ultimatum? Until I found out on my own?" "I don't know," he admitted. And somehow his honesty made it worse. I told Marcus I needed space to think, which was partially true. I did need space, but I'd already done all the thinking I needed to do. While he took a shower, probably to text Emma about our conversation, I sat in our home office and made a plan. 8 years of marriage. 8 years of building a life together. Our house, our savings account, our shared dreams for the future. I'd given him everything, and he'd thrown it away for someone who made him feel alive again. The phrase kept echoing in my mind, "feel alive again," as if I had somehow killed him with my presence, smothered him with my love, made him feel dead inside. The injustice of it burned in my chest like acid. I opened my laptop and began researching. Divorce laws in our state, property division, spousal support. I wasn't going to be the naive, trusting wife anymore. I was going to be smart, strategic, and most importantly, I was going to be first. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister Claire. "Still on for lunch tomorrow?" I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, "Actually, can we make it dinner? I have something important to tell you." I'd need support for what came next. I'd need someone in my corner who would remind me of my worth when Marcus inevitably tried to make this my fault. Because cheaters always did that, didn't they? They found ways to blame their betrayal on their victim's shortcomings. The shower was still running upstairs. I could hear Marcus singing, actually singing, something he hadn't done in months. He was probably relieved that his secret was out, that he no longer had to carry the weight of his deception. The thought made me furious. I picked up his phone from the counter where he'd left it again. His passcode was my birthday. At least he hadn't changed that yet. I scrolled through his messages with Emma, taking screenshots of the most damning conversations. Evidence, I told myself, just in case. And then I saw it. A text from earlier that morning, sent while I was in the shower. "My wife knows. I don't know what to do."
Emma's response was immediate. "Meet me at the usual place. We'll figure this out together." The usual place? They had a usual place. My husband and his mistress had established routines, traditions, a whole secret life that existed parallel to our marriage. That's when I made my decision.
I scrolled through Marcus's contacts until I found what I was looking for. Janet Morrison, real estate. Janet had sold us our house 6 years ago, and we'd stayed in touch. She'd been trying to convince us to upgrade to a bigger place for years, always sending us listings of houses she thought we'd love. With Marcus's phone in my hands, I opened a new message to Janet. "Hi, Janet, this is Marcus. Hope you're well. I wanted to reach out because my wife and I have decided to sell the house. We're looking to move quickly, within the next 60 days if possible. Could we schedule a time to discuss listing price and strategy? Thanks." I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The response came within minutes. "Marcus, how exciting! I've been waiting for this call. I can be there tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. to do a walkthrough and discuss pricing. This is going to be such a fun project." I typed back, "Perfect. Looking forward to it." Then I deleted both messages from Marcus's phone. The shower had stopped running. I quickly put the phone back where I'd found it and went to the living room, where I sat with a magazine pretending to read. My hands were shaking, but I felt more alive than I had in months. Marcus came downstairs 20 minutes later, dressed for work, his hair still damp. He looked nervous, uncertain, like a man who'd just confessed to a crime and was waiting for his sentence. "I'm going to stay at my mother's tonight," I said, without looking up from the magazine. "I need time to process all of this." "Okay," he said quietly. "I understand. Take all the time you need." Take all the time I need, as if time could somehow make his betrayal acceptable, as if enough contemplation might lead me to forgive 4 months of lies and deception. "I'll call you tomorrow," he said, hovering in the doorway. "Sure," I replied, still not looking at him. "We'll talk tomorrow." After he left, I sat in the silence of our house, my house now, and smiled for the first time in months. Tomorrow was going to be very interesting. I didn't go to my mother's house. Instead, I spent the night in our guest room, planning. I made lists of our assets, researched divorce attorneys, and composed a carefully worded email to HR about Marcus's relationship with Emma. I didn't send it yet, but I wanted to have it ready. At 9:45 a.m., I was sipping coffee in the kitchen when I heard a car pull into our driveway. Through the window, I saw Janet Morrison getting out of her silver sedan, professional portfolio in hand, looking excited about the prospect of another big sale. I opened the front door with a smile. "Janet, how wonderful to see you." "Oh, hello, dear," she said, looking slightly confused. "I'm here to meet with Marcus about listing the house. Is he ready for the walkthrough?" "I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding," I said, stepping aside to let her in. "Marcus isn't here. He's at work. You see, we're getting divorced, and I believe he may have contacted you by mistake." Janet's face fell. "Oh, my. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. The text seemed so enthusiastic about selling." "I'm sure it did. But I should clarify, I don't want to sell the house. I love this house. Marcus, however, is going to need to find somewhere else to live very soon." I heard a car door slam outside. Through the window, I saw Marcus's sedan in the driveway, and Marcus himself walking toward the front door with a bouquet of flowers, probably an apology gesture meant to buy him forgiveness. "That's my husband now," I said to Janet. "This should be interesting." Marcus walked through the front door, flowers in hand, calling out, "Honey, I brought you—" He stopped short when he saw Janet sitting in our living room. "Janet?" he said, confused. "What are you doing here?" "Hello, Marcus," Janet said, standing up with her portfolio. "I'm here about selling the house. You texted me yesterday asking to meet this morning." I watched the confusion wash over Marcus's face, followed quickly by a dawning realization. His eyes found mine, and I saw the exact moment he understood what I'd done.
I didn't text you, he said slowly. Oh, Janet said, looking between us. Well, this is awkward. I think I'll just. She gathered her things quickly. Call me if you actually do decide to sell, she said to me specifically, then hurried out the door. Marcus and I stood in silence, the bouquet of flowers hanging limply in his hand. You used my phone, he said finally. I did. You pretended to be me. I did. Why? I smiled, the same smile I'd been practicing all night. Because you pretended to be faithful for 4 months, I thought I'd try pretending to be you for a few minutes. How did it feel?
Marcus set the flowers on the coffee table between us, his hands shaking slightly. This is insane, Sarah. You can't just what? Use your phone? The same phone you've been using to carry on an affair for 4 months? The same phone you used to tell another woman you loved her while lying in our bed? That's different, is it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like we're both guilty of deception. The only difference is that mine lasted 5 minutes and yours lasted 4 months. Marcus ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I'd once found endearing, but now just looked pathetic. What do you want from me? I want you to pack your things and leave. Today. This is my house too. Not anymore. You made your choice when you decided Emma was more important than our marriage. Now you get to live with the consequences. I pulled out my phone and showed him the screenshots I'd taken of his conversations with Emma. I've documented everything. The affair, the lies, the fact that you've been planning a future with her while still married to me. My lawyer will find this very interesting. You can't just kick me out. Watch me. I walked to the front door and opened it wide. Your clothes will be packed and on the porch by 5 o'clock. Your key will be on top of the boxes. Sarah, please, we can work through this. We can go to counseling. We could have gone to counseling 4 months ago before you started sleeping with Emma. We could have talked about feeling dead in our marriage before you decided to feel alive with someone else. But you chose deception instead of communication. You chose betrayal instead of honesty. Marcus stood in the doorway looking lost. Where am I supposed to go? I'm sure Emma will take you in. After all, she's been planning a future with you, hasn't she? Now you can have it. What about us? What about our marriage? I looked at him for a long moment. This man I'd loved for 8 years. This stranger who'd been living a double life in my home. There is no us anymore, Marcus. You killed us the moment you texted "I love you" to another woman from our bedroom. I never meant for this to happen, but it did happen, and now you have to live with it. I closed the door in his face and turned the deadbolt. Through the window, I watched him stand on our porch for several minutes, staring at the door as if he could will it to open through sheer force of regret. Finally, he walked to his car and drove away. I spent the rest of the day packing his belongings with methodical precision. 8 years of shared life reduced to boxes and garbage bags. I found love letters from Emma hidden in his dresser drawer. I found receipts for dinners at restaurants he'd never taken me to. I found evidence of a whole other life he'd been living while pretending to be my husband. By 5 o'clock, everything was stacked neatly on the porch, topped with his house key just as I'd promised. I changed the locks anyway. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my kitchen, drinking coffee and reading the newspaper. The divorce was finalized last week. Marcus got half of our savings and some of the furniture. I got the house, my self-respect, and a future that doesn't include wondering if my husband is texting another woman. Marcus moved in with Emma immediately after I kicked him out. According to mutual friends, they're very happy together. I'm sure they are. Relationships built on deception and betrayal always start with such passion, such intensity. I wonder how long it will take before one of them gets bored and starts looking for someone new to make them feel alive again. I've started dating again,
Nothing serious, just casual coffee dates and dinners with interesting men who don't have to sneak around to spend time with me. It's amazing how refreshing honesty can be after months of living with lies. The house feels different now, lighter somehow. I've redecorated the bedroom, replacing the curtains that used to filter that soft morning light. The new ones are brighter, more cheerful. They let in more sunshine. I keep Marcus's last text to Emma as a screenshot on my phone, not out of bitterness, but as a reminder. A reminder that when someone shows you who they are, you should believe them. A reminder that self-respect is worth more than false reconciliation. A reminder that sometimes the best revenge is simply living well. Yesterday, I ran into Janet Morrison at the grocery store. She asked how I was doing, and I told her the truth. I'm doing wonderfully. Had you thought about selling the house? She asked, getting a fresh start somewhere new.
I smiled and shook my head. No, I love my house. I'm not running away from anything anymore. I'm staying exactly where I belong. She nodded approvingly. Good for you. The right person will appreciate what you've built. As I drove home, I thought about Marcus texting Emma from our bedroom, about the betrayal that had felt like the end of the world 6 months ago. Now it felt like the beginning of something better. A life where I don't have to wonder if the person sleeping next to me is dreaming of someone else. I pulled into my driveway and looked at my house, my sanctuary, my fresh start. The morning light was hitting the windows just right, and everything looked perfect. Some betrayals destroy you, others set you free. I'm grateful mine did the latter. The only text I send from my bedroom now is to myself. Good morning, beautiful. Today is going to be a great day. And it always is.
If this story shocked you, just wait for what's next. Leave a comment, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and of course, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss a single notification.